Alright, so shouts out to y'all. You know what I mean? Let's get a little noise in the building so they know this. So this is all an affirmation of some work that I've been doing called Still Growing. A lot of that is about me just affirming that no matter how much I've been doing already, there's still so much more to do. You know what I mean? I be very critical of myself and I be very optimistic and inspired. You know what I mean? I battle in between them two thought processes as far as just working towards my vision and my purpose. You know, we was at the workshop today and we was just talking about our purpose, just literally meaning the reason that we exist. Like literally just being intentional about the reason that we exist. And part of the reason that I found that I exist through chapters in my journey, and I'll start with being at like 12, because that was a significant moment because that's when my parents had broke up and I never knew that that was such a character development arc. You know what I mean? The day you go for hero or villain, one of them moments, right? Like I ain't know it was one of them moments until I reflected on it later, until I was about 22. And then when I was 22, I was recognizing that that impact and that experience had already developed something in me, right? I only had hindsight at that point. I had resentment, fear, anger, you know, and a lot of things that were unprocessed. So at 22, I had, you know, significant encounters with the law, family members, and just lost a lot of what I would call just peace, you know what I mean, in my life, or just stability. So since then, you know what I mean, I popped up in Philly and just been reclaiming my being, my sense of self-worth, but also developing skills, life languages, you know what I mean, and new experiences that have helped me find the purpose that I mentioned in the beginning, right? And as I look in the crowd, you know what I mean, my dog Smooth, you know, he was integral to that mission because without you, I wouldn't have been able to get here. Shouts out to Comfort with the save. Yes, she got the goods. Thank you. You ain't gotta bring it, you good. We gonna handle that later. You just excited me, you know what I mean? Thank you. You know what I'm saying? So it's just stuff like that, man. It be people I can really depend on. So yeah, Smooth, aka Berlin, aka Marty, aka Sean, you know what I'm saying, aka
Neil Reb.
You feel me? So it's like I was the one that taught me how to make music and just opened up my mind and being more intentional and constructive with my efforts. And so over the last 8 years I've been here in Philadelphia, utilizing music to find my talents, my voice, and just also more meaning and purpose. So what does this have to do with why we're here today? Well, after I transitioned from one of the more significant accomplishments in my journey of just having a space, I needed to find something to do, literally, quite literally. Like my day-to-day was 5-6 days a week at a space similar to this, trying to rent it out, trying to generate revenue, just doing the things that were required to pay the bills. And I like to regard this as just being very ambitious, but losing clear sight of my aspirations any longer, right? Like who was I becoming, what really mattered type vibes. And that's when I just released the space and I knew that there was a greater version and a greater purpose for myself, but I didn't know quite what it was yet. So that's when I actually ran into being here. Garley, shouts out to Garley, you know what I'm saying? I met her about going on 2 years ago and we were just on a date and she was like, I know this fly spot. You know what I mean? Let's just go here. Because I wanted to go to a thrift store, but I wanted to go to a black-owned thrift store. I wanted to be intentional about it. Everything got to be intentional, right? So she brought me here, and you know, I grabbed a couple of things, but the first thing that I was just inspired to do was like, I hollered at John, and I'm like, look, I mean, I already see what's going on in here. I see you running the business. I was just doing something like that, and I just want to be intentional about being in a space like this again, but being the thing that I needed when I had that space. Like someone who gonna really help carry some real weight and not look for a paycheck, right? And try to get their whole vibe off on what I've built. Now I just really wanted to just be an angel. So just something that was sent for just the great things that people like myself had done. So when the moment I was in here, I was like, look, man, just let me know how I can pull up and add value. And surely enough, like, you know, he was able to find space for me. And after volunteering, a year later, I was able to, you know, build this relationship. You good? Yeah.
little intermission, and then they can snap their fingers, and then you can start taking your breather, and then you can get into what the questions you want to ask.
And I want to just get straight into what I feel like are meaningful questions. I don't want to be here no more than maybe like 30, 40 minutes. So I want to give you the opportunity to like elaborate as much as you want on these questions, and then I'll just flow back in, and you know how we do it. So my first question for today is, right, what personal experiences or struggles inspired you to start Here's the Cool Stuff, and how do they still shape your mission today?
I was 26 or 27, and I was a teacher, and around like 25, I couldn't see past this like 27. So I didn't think my life was over, but I couldn't imagine my life older than what I was. So that kind of scared me a little bit, and I started getting on this hustle and bustle of trying to control my future. You know, like I really felt at 25, it sounds crazy right now, but I felt like if I don't do this, whatever this is right now, I'm not going to be set up for 35, 45, you know what I mean? So I went back to college to get my master's degree, and I was on my way to get my doctorate, because in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to be in a classroom anymore. I already have been in the classroom for a decade. I don't, the system is not set up, and it's not conducive to my passions. So if I'm going to be in this career, I got to get out of here. And by out of here, I mean out of the classroom and be an admin and do some real work. Well, life happened, meaning I experienced death for the first time, which meant I experienced grief. I was going through a breakup, school. And this is how you know everything on paper was going good. You know what I mean? My bills were paid. All right. I had like a 3.8 in college, and it was a breeze. It was a breeze. So, but my spirit was still very heavy, and I didn't make these moves because I was a genius 25-year-old. I made these moves because something inside of me was smarter than me. Okay, and making me move in a direction that my subconscious wanted to go in. But if I had it my way, my fear wouldn't allow me to see this far. Okay. But what God did was turn everything around for good. So it was a lot of hell going on. And all of those things pushed me into needing to make a big moves. I didn't know that was going to me like quit my job, but I needed to do something with all this energy. By energy, I meant energy from grief, energy from bitterness, energy from resentment. Like you mentioned something I never even thought of. It was things that went down in my home when I was 14 and 15, with my parents that really shaped my whole being, and I didn't know it for real until you said that 6 minutes ago. You hear it, but it hits you when it hits you. And now I'm like, you know what? Wow, I was carrying a lot of things. I was carrying, it didn't matter who was wrong. I was carrying whoever was wrong. If it was my mom or dad, I was carrying the lesser of it. So if my father did something to my mother, I wanted justice for whoever was less than. And I put on my back everybody who didn't have, who wasn't heard, who didn't have justice. That became a part of my MO. You know what I mean? So I was the voice for a lot of people without knowing that was what I was doing. But that came out of my mother not being able to speak up for herself. Okay, so I began to speak up for everybody, not even myself. I just began to speak. So thank you for sharing that, because I didn't understand. Because I will say that's cool, but no. I want to be whole. I want to be whole, to make the biggest impact. I don't want to be, changing my life around because I want to make a point or get back at my dad or, prove my mom wrong. Those things cause division within your own human self. There's no growth in that. You know what I mean? So I quit my job to address that I needed to make a shift in my being. I had no other choice. I quit because something in me was like, there's a new chapter on the horizon. Everything is going well, and your spirit still ain't right. So you got to make something got to give. So I could have moved away. I could have quit my job. There's a number of things I could have did, but I landed at quit my job. Now, arts is what I love. This store, it was to help pay my personal bills, like food, lighting, not lighting, electricity and all that. I'm telling you, to be honest, in 10 years of doing this, it has not done that. It has not paid my bills. It has not done those things. I have been keeping this up. The dream was for that to happen, but that has not happened. But I'm just answering your question. Art is my passion. You name it, you name the form of it, I'm in there. You know what I'm saying? I'm in there like swimwear. But that don't pay the bills, and you know what I mean? If you're not famous, nobody want to hear or see what you got to do. But I was like, I'm going to keep doing my art, and this is just going to, you know what I mean? So that's why I quit my day job, and I, you know, got rid of all that other stuff so I can be more clear in this world as a man, because I started bleeding, brother. I started bleeding, and I'm an impact man. Like, it don't matter, like, my existence, I'm going to be making an impact. Whether it's positive or negative. If I open up my mouth, I'm making an impact. If I say hello, I got to be intentional about what's coming out with the hello, because I'm gifted and I'm talented to make things change in the room. And because I know that about myself, that's why I said I got to be whole. Because when I walk in a room, they say, who's that guy? And they're going to attach themselves to whatever I'm giving off. Whatever you giving off. It ain't just me, it's us, okay? I just figured it out a little earlier on, and I said, well, God allowed me to see that I needed to make a shift so that I wouldn't be bleeding on other people in the process of me becoming whole.
And that's the part I want to actually just chime in on, and you know, I want to ask like a 1A, B question type vibe, but one thing I want to elaborate on is that's exactly, you elaborated on it well. I was recognizing that, you know, those my worldview that was a reaction or a response to what was going on in my house was causing me to have unhealthy relationships with my brothers and my friends, and as well as the women that I was keeping around me in my life. And I didn't realize it until my blood was all over them all the time. So that was a great way of just creating that visual for that. But can you touch a little bit on the arts and your passion as well before I move on to the next question?
Yeah, what you want to know?
Just what they are, and you know, like you said, selling clothes was to get to the bills, but you know, you already knew what the direction of your passion is. So I mean, I'm more than sure that you can elaborate on maybe JGP and just what that encompasses at the very least.
Okay, performing arts,
yeah.
And like I have a love for, you know, visual arts, sculpting and crafting. What you see behind me, 90% of this stuff is my brother. He just left. He made all of these things. I got like 2 pieces up here, but he went to school for it and he's an expert. So I'm very clear in my level. So I have an appreciation for art, you know what I mean? But that's not my twist. I paint and draw for fun, or like to get something off of me, you know what I mean? Or to lead me to what I really love, which is music, movement, writing, theater, film, documentaries, storytelling. That's my passion. I have degrees in, well, music and dance, but at this point that was just because I needed to do something and keep my GPA up, you know what I mean? But at this point it has led me into doors, because I didn't see myself doing this like a JGP. I thought I had to be found in a bathroom singing in the stall. Somebody be like, hey, are you, who's that? You're signed. That's what I thought. That's how I thought it'd go. So this was really, you know, I quit my job to be for like a passion project. So writing short films and scripts and plays and music has just always been a way for me to keep my happy. I was too insecure to see it past that.
Okay. And so, I mean, I wanted y'all to hear that for y'allself, because y'all know where y'all fit in. Y'all know what y'all passions is. Now that y'all have him in here, you know what I mean, make sure y'all tap in. That was a plug. I'm just plugging y'all in. So that's part one. I plugged y'all in just now. Okay. So we're going to keep it moving.
And by the way,
yeah, go for it.
I've been here all my life, not in this building, but in this city. All right. And it's crazy to say that. It is crazy to say that. I graduated at 16 in 2003. That was over 20 years ago. In 2000, but that's when I wrote my first show. It doesn't feel like 20 years ago. I'm just putting some things in perspective. It feels like 10 years ago. Maybe. The pandemic really screwed it up. I don't know what years and what time is. My whole reference of time is just gone. But I've been here for so long, so I know a lot of things just by being here and by doing the same thing for so long. Okay, like I didn't change up. Okay, so I've been doing music. I've been doing movement. I've been doing film. I've been so much so that I've passed on. I'm still here because of the store, but I've seen the waves. I had a wave. You know what I mean? My generation had a wave, and I'm seeing the new waves come. And I'm like, oh, and supportive and encouraging. But what I don't see, not just in this realm, but like I was telling you, I don't see people that are hungry. I know you think you're hungry. You think you're hungry. You know what I mean? I'm not talking to you unless I feel like I'm stepping on your toes. You know what I mean? You think you're hungry, but you're really not hungry. You really want to address your insecurities, all right? And you really want to address your fears. Because until you address them, you can't say you're hungry or thirsty. You know what I mean? You out here playing and really wishing and hoping for something that will never come true because you're not putting yourself in the rooms with the right people. You're not volunteering nowhere. You're not helping nobody. You're not serving anybody. You're not going to ask the people who are doing it, what did you do? How did you get here? Can I help you? Can I serve you? Can I do? And serve is an interesting word, but I don't use that loosely. I know that I'm successful because I went into places and helped people literally for fun, literally what you did. And while there for fun, they got bored one day and said, do this. Or they didn't want me to be like, you know what? Here, let me show you how to do this. I'm like, dang, now I know how to do a budget sheet. But I would have never learned how to work lights. I would have never learned how to do sound. I would have never learned how to sew a costume, which actually made open my mind to actually sew pants and suits and skirts. I would have never did that had I not stayed a little longer after event to be like, you need me to do something. And I'm telling you, I'm just say Philly. I know a lot of people are not from here, but I can only speak for where I'm at. A lot of people, and I'm generalizing, people in Philly want to skip that part. Like skip the internship. Like skip the helping hand. They're all about the service and community. Lies. You ain't about no community. If you're about the community, you be in the community. You know what I mean? And the community would know who you are. You know what I mean? Maybe not your name, but they would know your face. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to say, check your inventory, like your personal inventory, to be like, all right, am I really doing what I really want to do? And it's okay that you may not be, just identify it. But like, you know what? This actually is a hobby. So that you can stop stressing yourself out and stop turning red when you don't get the things that you don't get, or when if you're not making the right impact. All right. So as an artist, y'all, I've been seeing the same thing, and I would say go back and start with giving. Even as an artist, last thing, you are a business. You know what I mean? You are a business, and you want to. Thought that was what is she?
You felt it. Felt it. Right.
I smell she coming.
Right. I felt it.
And you are a business, and as a business, you still have a problem to solve. All right. So, what problem are you solving as an artist? If you can figure that out, maybe not right now, but if you can figure that out, you can find your tribe.
Give thanks and praise, and that's one of the things that I've appreciated from you the most is. That statement you made about being hungry, because every room I walk in, a lot of people affirm like, Teejay, you everywhere and you doing this and you doing that, and I really appreciated the most how you always seen that there was more for me. Not that, because it's like, Teejay, you good? Where you at? And I'm like, nah, there's so much more for me. So it's like you was the first person in a really long time that lit that fire underneath me and was like, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I love you, bro, because you seen more in me. My second question is, how do you define cool stuff, and how has that definition evolved with the community you've built?
This started out by me being bored as a teacher. Always loved clothes. Not always, but around 15, 16, I started just like picking up different things just with my eyes. You know what I mean? And for myself. And when Instagram came out, I just started screenshotting people that look much like many of you in this room.
I know that's
and
right.
I would repost them on my page. And eventually I called the page Here's the Cool Stuff. And it was just a blog, all right? Or a vlog, or whatever you call it. So when this happened in my life, I didn't grow up with this idea. This happened in a matter of 2 months. I ran out of money. That's what happened. And I was looking for a place to sell my clothes. So I was on Craigslist looking for little pop-up shops, little events. I couldn't find nothing. But what did come up was an ad for a spot on on Broad Street. And that's what opened up my mind to this idea of having a store. I did not go to Craigslist to find a store. I went to Craigslist to find pop-up shops and little flea markets to sell my things, because people kept saying, oh, you got cool, So I would never throw anything away. I would I'm tired of wearing this. I put it in my basement. I'm like, one day I'm going to sell this somehow, some way. And so that was the idea that I had. So the cool thing was just because of what I was seeing, like beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's like, I don't know what cool is, but because this is my store or my Instagram page, cool is kind of what I'm saying it is. But I gotta say, it was not what people would look like. It's how they made me feel when I saw them. Okay?
Is that how it evolved, or is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You know what I mean? So like you're you, but it was something about when I look at you, how you make me feel. Not by what you say, not by what you do, because it's just a picture. But something about, you know what I mean, would move me. And that's what I call cool. Now I'm not too sure I would have that experience if you weren't wearing something interesting. I may not be able to experience this phenomenon that is you unless I did like this. You know what I mean? So that's what's cool about the experience. But you gotta be in the right standing. I'm not talking about right versus wrong. I mean, you gotta be present to make the experience. You know what I'm saying? Like y'all have to be present in this world. You have to be out there. You got to put yourself out there in all black and in different colors, whatever, to be seen, to be heard, for you to move me. And I think it's a plus when you open your mouth and can say something, you know, great. You know what I mean? I think it's a plus if you start moving and you got rhythm, but just on the bank of just like experiencing a person, that's what it is. And I didn't get that from clothes. I got that from the arts, like being an actor and singing and dancing and being in places where you are forced to experience vulnerability to be like, okay, this person is good or bad. Now, not a bad person, but I'm talking about school. Like, you need to be able to say, okay, this is a good performance and this is a bad performance. And then when you get into the pedagogy, you need to be able to break it down and be able to say, okay, if I'm going to teach you how to get from 1 to 2, I need you to get into these steps. So that kind of training is what made me, that kind of training is how I manifest different opportunities and experiences and how I navigate different things in my life. So that's how art shaped me and shaped my outlook on people, and that's how I see cool. So it's not clothes, it's what I learned in the arts, and it translated itself in how I see people. And nobody's nude, so it's clothing.
Yes, sir. It's
clothing that tells a story before anything else. You know what I'm saying? And by the way, when I opened this store, y'all, what's up? It's good to see you. For real. I'm good. I forgot what I was saying. You made me smile.
You're talking about how cool can be expressed.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. I know I have a store and I know it's clothing and I know it's about visuals, but I wanted to say that this was just an opportunity of giving people permission to try new things and to be more vulnerable to say what they want to say. So all of us are saying something with what we wear, like really. But when I got this store, I had this idea, y'all. My idea was every day I'm gonna dress up. I'm like, I'm gonna just lay it down. Every day I'm coming here with a different kind of style. Like one day a suit, one day a jeans, short, whatever. It didn't last at all. It didn't last at all. Not only did it not last because I was new and nobody was walking into my store, so essentially I was wasting outfits. You know what I'm saying? The other part was the clothes weren't indicative of how I was feeling. So there was a conflict going on. And every day of that conflict, I'm like, I'm falling into the same trap I was in before I quit my job. You know what I mean? Just with clothes. And the last thing about clothes that I realized is my outlook on clothing has changed based on how people use clothing. People, not everybody, but generally people use clothing to, categorize things. So, I feel better about myself. That's one good way. But when you start saying looking at other people and saying, okay, this person is more or less than, or I feel better than them, or this makes me feel, and having a store, I see that a lot. And that's the part about retail that I hate. But, that I can't put that on a t-shirt. It's essentially that a lot of people use clothing not to accentuate their great characteristics, but to lie. You know what I mean? Especially you grab an item, you take a picture in it, you price it $1,000 Instagram, and then you come back and you give it back. That's lying. You know what I mean? You're not rich. You're you know what I mean? Your whole outlook, and there's a lot of people that live that life, that live that pretend life, that live that fake life. And having a store, you get to see that. So my thing has changed to it not being about the outward appearance. It really is about what's going on the inside that really should affect the outside. And at a certain level, you should be able to just move and shake and do what you want to do and not affect what's going on in the inside. You know what I mean? Your inside is, or your heart, your mind, your fruit, what's going on. You can walk out with sweatpants and a tank top. I'm serious, I do it. And when I do that, people are like, oh, I love the way you dress. I'm like, my gosh, are you crazy? I just walked up, but I know what they're saying. They're talking about me. They talk about you. They're not talking about your sweatpants. They don't know how to articulate. You know what I'm saying? They don't know how to say what they want to say. So I'm like, I like your outfit. No, you don't like my outfit. You like me.
Right.
You know, people be like, I wish I could wear that. I got on jeans and a t-shirt. You can. You do. You did. You are. So what you see and what we admire is not what people are wearing. It's their gall. And we're living vicariously through people when we can literally do the same thing. And the bottom line is, we literally are. Yeah. We really are. We're already doing it. We just don't want to name it, because sometimes if we name it, we got to be responsible for it and keep it up. We got to keep the cool up. Well, the answer is, you don't have to keep up cool. It is what it is. You cool when you down. You cool when you up. You cool when you don't lost, and you cool when you found. You are who you are. I'm talking if you're cool. If you're not cool, then this doesn't apply. But whatever you are that, and you can't, you know what I mean? And listen, and your audience artists, this is for the artists in the room. Your audience, like, they will go with you on the journey. They will go when you fall or when you mess up. They're waiting for you to recover, to learn. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm like, he's down. Shut up. Don't talk about her. Don't talk about it. He's down. He said it. He did it. And what? And what? And they waiting for that song for you to explain. Maybe not explain, for you to be like, yeah, I did this. I cussed that. I hit. I lost my job. I'm over that bitch. And they with you in that journey, and they're waiting for you to recover to see how you get out of there. I'm telling you, people are living vicariously through you. So cool is not just not doing cool things. It's continuing to survive and be authentic as your true and natural self, which includes good days and bad days. And I'm not too sure you can do that freely, bound by the prisons or the prisms of society, the prisms of your own mind, meaning like generational stuff, like what your mom said, your dad said, I want you to be this, and you're not that. That's still in your head. Like, you know, be a doctor, you'll never be nothing. You'll never be nothing. That could still be in your head, even though you're walking around with 10 jobs. That can still be in your head. You think of you nobody because somebody else's idea of you or somebody's dream for you. They cast that word over you. And so a lot of times, like even myself, I am grappling with words that somebody said. I heard somebody say something smart. They said, people can say something to you to stop your hair from growing.
Lord knows. And that's
wow. You understand?
Yeah.
People can say, and they walk away and don't even remember what they said. But for you, you got to deal with that for the next 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm bald. I lost my hair because it's genetics. But let's just imagine that somebody said something to me at 20 and I kept thinking about it, and one hair after another. Now, 20 years later, I'm bald. Now, I'm not saying that happened, but I know that's happening to a lot of men and a lot of women.
That part. And you were the one that we had a conversation one day, and like you said, to highlight the element of what cool is. You know, that the way you just told that story, it reminded me like when I was in kindergarten, and your teacher would read the book, but they'd bring the story to life, though. They ain't just reading the pages. You know what I mean? He always knows how to bring the story to life, and John was one of those people who was consistently asking me, where are you at? Where are you at? And I'm like, what do you mean? Everybody sees me. He's like, no, but where are you at in here? Where are you? Where's Teejay? I'm getting to know him. And when people are around, I don't see him no more. So I had to really take that inventory and start understanding more of what you said. Like, am I cool to me? Do I like what I got going on? Am I appreciating what I got going on? So, yeah. But you said we need a little breaky break. Mm-hmm. All right. So, yeah, we're going to take a break. I know mad people just walked in. If y'all want to, like, reorganize, y'all. All right. So, my next question for you, John, is what's been the most difficult decision you've had to make as a business owner, and what did it teach you about leadership?
Which has no price tag.
The most
difficult decision you had to make as a business owner, and what did it teach you about leadership?
Okay, well, the biggest thing is being responsible for people. I'll start it there. Being responsible for people, which means, and that's not with this store, that's with JGP. So there's a cast that could be from 30 to 50 people. So I have to manage those people. And then sometimes people that were supposed to pay me didn't pay me. So I've had to tell people I can't pay them. without telling them why, because that meant throwing somebody else under the bus, and you just can't do that, even though it was wrong. So I have to take those hits. And that's happened a couple times. And those people are parents, mothers, fathers who have children who are waiting for that money to ... And although it's not my fault, it grieves me because I still feel extremely responsible. So sending those emails out to say I can't pay you, those have been the hard parts. But I will also say anytime I had to bite the bullet as the person in charge to relay any kind of message to somebody, that's the hard part. Because somebody got to do the dirty work. Somebody got to do the thing. And even with the cast, let's say you all are a cast, and you would assume that everybody going to, maybe not get along, but just come do your lines and go home. But like y'all got beef with each other, they got beef with each other, and they got beef with each other.
The other
right.
Day.
And then now he's sleeping with this person, and it's a free country. You know what I mean? And although I got nothing to do with none of that, because it's my company and because it's my play, I have to navigate all of that. When those two people get in the scene together and they're not talking no more, I'm supposed to read their minds and be like, oh, y'all no longer sleeping together, okay, and this is now my problem, and then this person doesn't show up and all those kind of things. So managing a community of people, now mind you, I was 19 when I started, so 19-year-olds and then 20-year-olds and 21-year-olds. So your problems at 19 we all had, but we just had to do that around each other. So going through each stage of development as a teenager and a young adult, with all the faculties going on in my body and my mind and my heart and everybody else's, and having to manage that and travel and tour was difficult. Because like I said earlier, I didn't know that I was functioning in a space of not being whole and healed. What 19-year-old is, right. You know what I mean? But you just don't wait. You got to do it. I felt a fire in my inside, and I felt that I needed to make some things happen. And were there some casualties along the way? Yes, there was. And I'm so sorry, But one day I was thinking about something, and God was dealing with me about, don't worry about the casualties. You are a casualty, and aren't you good?
Come on, man. That's what I'm saying.
I'm a casualty in somebody else's story, and I'm good. God has made my mind, kept He surrounded me with people that love me, support me. I'm good. And in that same way, I can't be too, if I got to make sure my heart is good. And have I been repentant to that person? Like, I'm not going to let sis keep walking around thinking that, I'm okay with what I did. No. But once in my heart, and she or he know that, I didn't mean or what I said or those things, then I really do got to move on and keep running my businesses. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So the hard part is that, the human side of things, because you could be cold, but nobody gonna want to work with you when you cold. One more thing.
Keep it cool. You want
It's the arts, y'all. It's the arts. Y'all remember I told you I picked up this complex of being a voice for the voiceless,
right?
Because of what was going on in my home. That then turned into, I'm not gonna let my homies be out here playing themselves. So if my homie says something stupid in my space, I'm like, No, I'm not offended, but I can't have you going out there saying that same dumb thing outside. It's funny in here, but it can't be funny out there because you're a reflection of this whole circle. You know what I mean? And so I begin to, in those kind of things, being that guy. You know what I mean? Saying, you said, what about sis? You can't do that, bro. You can't say that about her, then expect her to yada, yada, yada. Or just saying, being that person, that's the hard part. That's the hard part. And I said the arts because people have grand ideas of the arts. But if it's my thing, mind you, my song, my play, my movie, my film, I got to tell you when you are amazing. And I got to tell you when you're not. And a lot of people are not in the space to be told when they're not. But if you have never done anything before, why are you not in the space to be told that you are not? Remember I talked about artists? If you never took an internship, you skip the process of hearing critiques. Yeah. You skip the process of getting feedback. And the first time somebody challenge you, you ready to shut down and turn on and put on your monkey suit and be like, who you think you are? No. Have you ever met a director? Have you ever been under a boss? You know what I'm saying? And that's what I see in this city about the arts, and that's the hard part. People have the heart for the arts, but no brain.
Yeah,
no brain. A heart for art, No brain. And then when they meet somebody like me, because they're not willing. Listen, how many of you are willing right now as artists in the room to drop what you're doing and go to school? You're probably not. You know what I mean? But you got to find somewhere or somebody to challenge you. Listen, you know who you need on your team? Somebody to combat everything you're saying. You need a devil's advocate. The big companies have people on their team to say, okay, no, that ain't gonna work, or just to challenge it, and not for me to think that, you know, oh, you always saying no, but I'm tired of yes people. Yes people. Yes people is your mom telling you, baby, you can sing. No, you can't.
No, you can't.
Baby, that business is good. No, it ain't. You ain't got no business plan. You ain't never heard of a budget. You ain't never said it to nobody. You don't look at Instagram and think that you are everybody out there, and you are becoming what you see, not realizing that they are failing and struggling just like you. You never took a class. You won't take a class. You won't learn nothing. You got no discipline. You got no commitment. But somebody's supposed to challenge you and ask you about what your goals are, and you can't answer it, and then you feel some kind of way. You got to spend. Listen, if you live 80 years on this life, I don't think there's anything wrong with taking 6 months to sit your ass down and learn in a space of humility.
Amen.
And I think it's appropriate to do it between 20 and 30.
Yeah.
Right.
So I always say I can speak this confidence because I'm confident that I'm humble.
Right.
I can say what I need to say because I've had more critiques and more feedback and more no's than I can. Listen, this space is going down in 30 days. I know a no.
I know I know.
I know a no. And that's why I can be this bold. And let me tell you something. When you're pushing 40, here's a lesson, y'all. You can do some things. You can say what you need to say. And you don't have to be what you've been before. And 20-year-olds that aren't willing to hear it, remember you were 20? Skip them and keep it moving. Because they're going to watch you and they're going to watch me skip away. They're going to be like, oh, that's how you skip away? Yes. Everything I do is a lesson to somebody who's watching. So I don't have to explain. I'm explaining this because he's asking me. But I don't have to explain anything to anybody. I do when it's appropriate because I want to help and serve because somebody helped and served me.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's all intentional. I don't have to prove anything to anybody. You know why? Because nobody is in here daily buying these clothes. I'm closing. I don't have to prove anything to anybody. Nobody owe me nothing. I don't owe anybody anything. So what I say comes from not hurt, not pain, but from experience. I've been on the high mountaintop and I've been in the valley low. And nobody's got me there or there. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm the consistent. I'm the constant. So I'm telling you what makes people grow. I hope y'all can walk away with getting the help you need. I'm not talking about mental and emotional. I'm talking about in your career, in your profession. Yeah. You know what I mean? In your business, you don't know how you are not, how much you're lacking by just not asking the right questions. You know what I mean? You think you're like, I'll raise $1,000. You know you could double that if you just ask somebody to help you. You know what I mean? What I heard this year about this is the year of collaboration. Lies. Nobody's really down to collaborate. You ain't ready to collaborate with me. Okay. You know what I mean? Because you know how I work.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? And you should expect that. I've been here for 20 years. Why would you walk into ready to collaborate with somebody and think that they're less than? No. Yeah. Collaborate with people that are better than you or grandier than you or doing something that you can't do. And while you're collaborating, learn and build relationship. But this thing that goes down is a cancer. Everybody think that everybody's getting ready to steal something. What do you have that other people want? Like, let's be real. Everybody got their own ideas and everybody got trauma and something going on. The time that they spend and you think they get ready to steal your idea, they trying to survive. They trying to feed their kids. Nobody's out to steal your shit. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the lie. That's more, the truth is insecure and fear. All right? So we're not afraid in collaborations. We're not afraid of people stealing our stuff because your stuff ain't that good.
Remember when I told you that story, I said, you know, like, I just don't want to go in the room and people looking at me a certain way because I came from this background and people used to shoot me down and I grew up and John said, TJ, you my dog, so I'm going to keep it a being with you. Ain't nobody worried about you like that much to even be considering all of that when you walking in the room. And if somebody is, what you just said, that's the trauma and the grief that everyone walks with, and they got to prioritize that on their time, not mine, right? So that was something that, like he said, some people would hear that and go, no, I'm not talking to that nigga no more. He said, I don't matter, right? They just internalize that so negatively, but he was trying to protect me from myself. He's like, man, you letting yourself down when in reality, like you said, people are looking for you to serve and serve you. You know what I mean? Learn, and you can learn something too. You dig? So that I had to get out of my own way with just a simple tweak. You dig? And like you said, that's the important part. I feel like that's the third lesson of this conversation is that, well, you said it best, but I'm just going to reiterate it is, like you said, whether it's 6 weeks a year, 6 months every few years, just fall back and go learn the thing you saying you trying to do before you just getting in to do it. Because I heard a bar the other day and it said people watch 3 days or 3 hours worth of videos and think that they can do things people have been doing for 15 or 20 years now. People will watch 5 YouTube videos and be like, oh, I can do that. He did it for 20 years, worked at a company for 5 years, went to school for 6. You watch 3 videos, you could do it too. And that's such an insult to the people who you just learned from and who have dedicated their lives and maybe have lost a lot in their life to be in the position to just give you that free YouTube vibe, right? So I'm gonna move to my next question. In what ways do you see Here's the Cool Stuff, in what ways do you see Here's the Cool Stuff not just as a store, but as a movement? And what legacy are you intentional about building through it? Now, when you answer this one, you can talk also like maybe JGP as well, because I know they both have 2 different, roots to the seed of why you do them. And I know JGP is more integral to what's like a movement. You mentioned it like with the cast members and just how you hold space and create community and stuff.
Yeah, so the best way I can put it is that the JGP is performance art and entertainment. And Here's the Cool Stuff is about visual arts and style and clothing.
Just as a business, like help, why'd you told me a bit of why you separated it. Could you elaborate and teach and show everybody like why you separated it and why it needed to be 2 different things?
Yeah, so there's a few reasons. Well, one's a nonprofit and one's a for-profit. When I started JGP as an arts and entertainment company, it made sense to be a nonprofit because of the work that we were doing and that we continue to do. And when I opened a retail store, it could be nonprofit, but I already had a nonprofit. And I wanted to structure my business in regards to a for-profit because it's a clothing store. I know that really doesn't answer the question the best way, but the way we receive revenue is different and the way we account for revenue is different than a nonprofit. Okay. So the nonprofit, although it's my company, it's really the community's company. Like nonprofits are about the community, where for-profit is about the company. Yeah. Okay. And so that then began to say what we can get from grants or loans or, different things like that. Some people don't give certain things to every kind of company. And like you're not going to find too many grants in retail for nonprofit, but you might find some for grants for-profit. Yeah. So those are my decisions, is thinking grand scheme of why I decided to do a nonprofit versus an LLC versus a for-profit. By the way, when I started, I didn't have any of those things. So if you're trying to wait till you get those things in order to start, don't. Like, do your thing and get it in order. Because before you know it, it'll be 10 years and you're still trying to get that paperwork in order. Like, the fun stuff is the doing.
Yeah. And, part of what you just said that I had to reflect on, I came to this understanding maybe a month or 2 ago when I was at the park, and I'm like, I'll even go back a step before that, because I was witnessing what you were experiencing doing community work, and I was like, John does, I'm going to be more specific. I seen one of John's documents, right? He has a document that has like JGP and Here's the Cool Stuff. And it's like all these companies and all these open folders with more files and folders inside of them. And I'm like, every time he would bring it up, my throat would just clench up and I'd just be so like, that's what you have to do to organize communities. And he would be constantly like reminding me like, where I could be more intentional and efficient with the efforts that I'm having. He's like, man, you're spending 6 hours on this one thing. You could have delegated that. You could have moved this over here. You could have made this that way. And I learned from being here, just doing the work and learning and being open to learning, that community is a byproduct of the service that I provide. I'm a business operator. I do not want to chase y'all around and manage y'all and check in and see how your mind is and how your vibe is. And I want to provide the solution to a problem you have, and then you can align with other people who have successfully either solved that problem or are looking to solve that problem. That's why this says still growing. If you are still growing and that means something to you, you buy the shirt, you see other people's wearing the shirt, you hit, hey, you still growing too? We have a connection now. You know Teejay or something, right? And it allows you to like create shortcuts to creating community, right? So it's like my product and service can provide community as a byproduct, but I ain't trying to be a community organizer. And that's what I used to say. Yeah, I'm trying to do this for the community. I'm about the community. I'm going to do this for the community. And it's not that I love my community. I'm very intentional. I came here because this was a Black-owned business. But that's a personal prerogative. That's not what I want to do to make money, right? I want to be in the community. I don't want to be soup kitchen, free help tables, you know, free classes, going for grants. I watched you do nonprofit work. A lot of that shit work on grants. And I'll be honest with y'all, I can't stand the people who have to provide that stuff. I'm not always into what the politics or the policies around why they're giving you that money and who you got to serve just to serve who you want to serve, right? There's so many nuances to it. So I appreciate you mentioning that part about distinguishing the difference, because oftentimes, especially with being in the arts and the crafts and the musics, you start thinking like, you know, you start being all like community driven and you start hearing it and everyone saying it, and you got to really realign and reassess who you are and all of that. So that's just one thing I wanted to add. And my last question for today, and then I'm going to let y'all ask some questions too before we get up out of here. How do you balance staying culturally relevant with staying true to your original values, especially in a rapidly changing creative economy? Now, I want to like dive a little bit deeper into that, because I know that you're like very intentional about being a man driven by his faith, right? And being intentional about having God in your life. But then you also run a business, and that business existed prior to social media. So that's just context to like what I mean by that question, because it can sound a bit vague, or it can, you know what I mean, be loose in its terminology. Like, you have values that you're steeped in. You have a business that requires bills to be paid. And there's a landscape that's forever changing in order for that bill to be paid. How do you navigate that? What is the essentials to what you've done in that effort and in that experience, as you mentioned?
This sounds so cliche.
I know what you're going to say.
But I have continued. One word comes to mind, and it's authenticity. You don't have to worry about a trend. You don't have to worry about somebody passing you or being left behind if you are yourself. And you are present with where you are in that moment, in that day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the answer. So I have always, like when I write music or write a script, like if I give way to like, what's happening right now? What's trending? I'm done. I might as well go to bed for 3, I might as well hibernate like a bear for the season, because it's a wrap. Once I start asking questions about my own, what? No. I want to be, let me sit down and just create. You know what I mean? And just, you know, and that's my process. Everybody has their different processes for whatever, but mine is, if I think too much, it won't get done. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So what comes out of me in that moment, that's relevant. How do I know? Because it's today, and I'm me, and this is the moment. So it's relevant. And it's always worked that way. And if you stay true to that, your tribe will find you. You know, everybody ain't gonna like your stuff. That's number one. So with that in mind, let's just skip the crap and let me just be myself and find out who likes me.
So I want to give you an opportunity to give any closing remarks or any sentiments or any questions you have for me. But if not, or after that, I want to at least get 3 questions out of y'all, because I'm ready to go home. So did you have anything else you wanted to say, or you want to?
Well, one, happy birthday, bro, again. Yes, this is a testament to, you know, what you do add to this space. And I share often with you, like one time, y'all, many years ago, you said social media, but I was around before texting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
with JVP, I do.
Period. Like, just in life, okay? I was around before texting was a thing. You know, and so when texting became a thing, it was all the rage. And so I can remember hitting, not everybody up, but just checking on some of my friends. Like they would check, well, people weren't doing too much, but you know, I'd be like, hey, just checking in, how you doing? And one time a male friend said to me, Oh no, I'm lying. It's been so long I made that up. What happened was I read it on a status. A male friend of mine wrote it on his status. Now I don't know if he was talking about me, but he said something about men checking on men is weird. Right? You know what I mean? You understand that sentiment? Yeah. And I was like, gosh, like, was he talking to me? Like, how many guys are saying, hey, are you good? You know what I mean? So that created a complex. He said that at the right time in my life, meaning where it could attach itself to something weird inside my body. And so I struggled with, and I already said I had the complex of speaking up for people. So that dynamic, speaking up and not saying it or it was just like hell on earth, like fighting myself every single day to fit in, but also stay true to what was happening inside of me. And so that kind of transpired into this piece. I want to say like breaking the mold. Like I just had to be myself. Like suppression caused depression. Yeah. So, and being quiet and being silent and not doing what comes to me caused me to, what is that called? Like implode. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so I was bleeding inside and then it happened outside. Yeah. And so I was blessed to go through that early on, so I don't have to do it at 40, 50, and 60. You know what I mean? So I can do it in my teens or in my early 20s, and they'd be like, oh, you young, you know what I mean? I'm thankful for that. You know what I mean? So I did it, and now I can be really a treasure and a blessing to other people and be like, you don't have to go that route. And I guess if there was some advice I would say, it would be what you did. I spoke on it earlier about helping and serving and about collaborating. When I was sitting with you, I was able to see his process and to be able to say, what you're doing for 6 hours could take you 20 minutes. But if he was not sitting next to me, I would have not seen that, which means he would have continued to do this work and make it a part of his infrastructure and foundation. So his whole business will have nothing to do with efficiency. Right. So he would be failing before he began. And I could look a month later at him rolling like, what's wrong? Why am I not? So I'm telling that story just to paint like, what are you doing for 6 hours? That could be 2 hours or 2 minutes, but you just won't be around somebody. You know what I mean? How long are you going to do it on your own? Okay. And I know I'm speaking to somebody in here. I don't know who you are, but it doesn't take anything away from your vision, your goal, your life, and your plans and your identity to get up under somebody for a couple minutes and learn how to budget your job. Because what this brother did say is that he's not a part of, he wants to be in the community, but he has a business and he needs to be able to equate for everybody that walks up at a door. You know what I mean? Some of you are throwing events and you've never written a budget before. Why? I had a sister come in here running a company. She was always late. I said, your company, I know your company sucks. I know your company won't be around for a long time. And I know that you're going to be one of those people where people are going to talk about you and you're going to hear it as this ain't meant for me. No, it is meant for you. But you're going to hear what they're saying as the wrong thing. No, they're right. You do suck at what you do. But you have never taken the time to really, really learn. Now, you are needed, y'all. You are needed. But needed don't mean run out there and throw yourselves out in the woods. Right. That means prepare. Where is your preparation? That prepare yourself, because what's rampant out here is the spirit of offense. What I mean by that is you're going to get offended real easily. So it's just natural. So don't put yourself out there to be offended. They're going to come. But when they come and say you ain't worth shit, you got to be able to be like, oh, no. I did the work. So I know I'm worth shit. You ain't worth shit. But if they say it now and you ain't, they're going to tear your hole, because you know underneath it all, you're like, you know what? I didn't go to school for this. You know what? I used a template for my website and I really don't know what's going on. You know what? I don't, You know what? I haven't posted on my, you know what? You know what? I don't have it. You know what? And then you got to deal with the shame of you being out here saying that you all that, and you really not all that. You ain't all that if you're not making a real difference. Now, the real difference is, now I like to do a lot of things. I also want to say, get down to like the nitty gritty of your mission. I do 8 things. The mission is the same in all of those 8 things. I am me in all of those 8 things. So you can have 8 hobbies, y'all, but you only got 80 years. Like, maybe 90, maybe 100, but you know what I'm saying? You only got 80 years, and each thing you love to do needs attention. Separately, not together. So are your hobbies worth it? Or your passions? If you got 9 passions, Why are you spending time on hobbies? Okay, unless you don't have no passions. So in 80 years, if you do 4 things, my challenge for you is to set aside at least 3 months in each thing to not work on raising money for yourself, but work on learning for yourself. And the easiest way to do it is not to do it alone. Come on, y'all. It's not to do it alone and try to figure out. I mean, YouTube is good, but if you can get a person next to you, if you can get them and watch them work and watch them and just be like, oh, that's how you do that. You don't need no template. You're just watching. So find somebody. If you sing, find a singer, a good one. You know what I mean? Matter of fact, an artist development. If you're an artist in here, listen, go find somebody that can work with you as an artist development. Like, you know what I mean? Because if you sing and nobody talking about exercise, they don't know what they're talking about. If you rap and ain't nobody talking about exercise, they don't know what they're talking about. If you're an artist and nobody talking about this and that and the third, listen, I know what I'm saying. So artist development is what you need. Because once you get out of these community events, can you stand next to somebody like me? Woo! Talk that shit. Now, I'm confident. Like, y'all can be confident after 40 years, right? So don't look at me like, oh, no, after 40 years, you can, you know what I mean? Like, you say what it is. Say who you are. Now, what did I just say? After you get out of these community events, can you sing next to me? Now, you don't even know how I can sing, but I'm this confident. You're like, oh, that nigga can sing. You know what I'm saying? And so what I'm saying is being around people, like even your circle. Is your circle yes men? Or is your circle telling you like, sis, you was a little flat today. you might want to tune up. Or your toe wasn't pointing, sis. Or listen, or when you're not, or like even the people when you throw in your events, watch the people that don't show up for you. I mean, most people don't want to talk about that. They're like, no, if they were here, they would be here. Listen, there's a pattern that you need to pay attention to. You know what I mean? And I don't want you to give up all of yourself for people that are not giving you anything. You know what I mean? And giving yourself to audiences who are not, okay? So your reason for performing, it can't be fame. It has to be spiritual. Wow. And I'm not talking religion. I'm talking about it has to be spiritual because that's going to make you continue to do it when you don't get no money. Yeah. You know what I mean? And if you need money to do it, I'm not sure it's a passion to begin with. Mm-hmm. Because you don't need money to help. And if that's not why you do what you do to begin with, why are you doing it anyway? Mm-hmm. Drop the mic.
That part, right. So, did anybody have any questions before we slide today? Was there something on your mind or heart you just wanted to share? If you didn't have a question, if not, then like you dropped the mic. You know what I'm talking about? That's it. You got one? Here you go. Come pull up, cause I'm about to say if I go all the way over there, then you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
All right, y'all stand up.
Yeah, go do your thing, Queen.
I have a lot to say, but I'm gonna make it real short because you want to get home. Can we just give it up for them? Cause like y'all are amazing. I want to just say first of all to you, John. Here's the cool stuff is amazing, and what's even more amazing is you. You do so much for so many people, how you walk around, your talents and how you share your gift with the world and how you share yourself is impeccable and amazing. And it's been times where me, right, y'all pointed me out, you're like, you done nonprofit work, right? You work with the community, where I might have felt like I wasn't being listened to or heard. And you opened up your store and was like, you can do this for free. I got your back. How can I help? And I just want to say thank you for being who you are. And now I'm getting emotional. Like, it's even about me. But I just want to, give gratitude to who you are and what you continue to do from your heart. Thank you. Then Teejay. All right. Happy birthday, Teejay. I can't, as soon as he sat down, I'm like, not his birthday, and he interviewing somebody else. Like, that just says to who you are, who your character is, and I've seen him, like, he always talks about, like, he came from a whole different state and came over and took over. Like, yeah, I got a space, and y'all learn from me. Like, but just like who you're growing to be, the man that you're growing to be, like, I feel like a big sister right now or something. Like, I'm just very proud of you and how you have started to walk into your authentic self. Me and Tony were just laughing, like, yeah, he got fashion game now, you know, like, and to hear that, you know, Here's the Cool Stuff has something to do with it, you know, and I remember those.
Look like it if I was you had to look like
yeah, and I remember those times where you were like, you felt like you had to be something for people, and you had to like, oh, I don't think they're gonna like me, and now you be like, fuck it, like, this is who I am, and this is a reflection of who you are, all this love, you know. So just thanks y'all for being y'all. I think the only question I have is for John, like, and you noticing that you're still healing and you're still trying to keep yourself. I think when you were talking about how you had to manage people, I felt that in teaching. Like, I still had to be who I am to those kids, even though they're going through stuff, I'm going through stuff. Like, how did you find the balance to, like, be like, okay, now I really have to do self-care, and now I really have to like, what was like done or said that happened that made you realize how to balance that?
I never thought about self-care. I thought it was a woman thing. I'm gonna be honest with you. But like Self-Care Sunday, I never heard any man say that, you know. And obviously, I know it's not gender specific or sex specific, but you know, I can't think of one time in my life where I felt, you know what, I need self-care today. You know, it's more like I need to shape up because I got something to do, or you know, I gotta, you know, I smell my underarms, I need a shower, things like that, or I'm losing weight, I need to bulk up, things like that. But I wouldn't have said that was self-care, although that is self-care. What I will say is that I paid attention to, it's not me, it's something going on. My body is speaking to me. I'm not speaking to my body. So stuff starts showing up. Like as you get older, you know, you start experiencing tension in different places, or stress shows up in your body differently out of nowhere. You just be like, one day you be like, I'm tired. You be like, no, I'm not tired. Something else is going on, and you realize it's stress, and you realize it's anxiety, and you realize your breathing is changing. Like, these things happen, and after a while, just like, wait a minute. You know, you realize it takes me longer to recover from like somebody saying something or doing something or getting a citation. You be like, you know what? I'm realizing that I'm changing. And I'm not going to try to stay the same. My body is changing. I'm changing. I need to get used to these changes. And I paid attention. So I had practice, sis. I had practice 10 years ago when I went to that horrible season and I quit my job. That was me teaching myself how to pay attention and make a move. You know what I mean? So, like, that's how I learned from that instance. And I learned from paying attention to what's going on. And it wasn't hard. Like, things are set up where, like, okay, if nobody's showing up to a show, then I'm not going to do the show no more. That's clear. You know what I mean? If nobody's showing up to an open mic, then I'm not going to do the open mic. So in those ways, I wasn't lying to myself. I was looking at what's happening in front of me and addressing it head on versus pretending like, okay, no, it's going to work out. No, it ain't going to work out. This is what it is. Just like the other day, I heard a producer say, you know, producer on Broadway, she was like, I really do love all kinds of shows, but every show is not, it might not be the right time to do this show. The world might not be ready to hear this show right now. And I'm like, you know what? I never thought about that. Here I am just doing plays because it's the 10th year anniversary. But what if this is not the year where people want to hear about Cinderella? You know what I mean? Dreamgirls is all the rage, and here I am doing Cinderella. Well, I need to let Dreamgirls go on. When Dreamgirls die down, the smart thing would be to do Cinderella. So there's ways to figure out how to keep from falling and slipping, or to make yourself fall and slip because you know it's getting ready to happen.
Thank you.
And thank you, sis, for what you said. I appreciate that. Your time is, if this was your birthday, we would be saying all this about you.
Yeah, right. You do? And Queen Garley, what you need me to do?
Got something to read?
No, I'm too chocolate. Hi, everyone. You guys look so beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a few seconds. I just need a few seconds. Happy birthday. I hope you're taking in and embracing everybody that's in here right now. And they're intentionally here to celebrate you because it's your birthday and to love you very much. But I would like to take a second to have everyone, well, I have a cake, but I would like a second for everyone to sing happy birthday and just celebrate him for a second. And sing loud, please. Can you guys come a little closer or like
Not
around?
that bad velvet. Okay, what are we doing?
Ain't nobody sing you happy birthday. I'm sorry, Don. I think your interview right now.
It's his birthday.
I know, but I just wanted to take your time up real quick.
It's all good.
Damn, I had me a little secret is I actually had me a little mini joint last night, so I ain't think I was gonna get a second one. That's why I Yeah. Right. You over there. How you running off?
Beautiful cake, man.
That's that expensive shit. Blue pepper of the year. Okay. So how this work? You know I'm doing this a lot.
Everybody about to sing. So if I say 1, 2, 3, you guys say. Start singing, okay? Always sing the black version.
I'm wondering. Birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday.
Another thing I gotta do.
Make a wish.
Yeah, you gotta make a wish, bro. You have to.
You gotta put that hat on.
Yeah. You a man of many hats. You know.
Yeah.
I don't normally share. If y'all know me, I don't share like that. But if y'all would like a small piece, you know what I'm saying? I'm willing to share a bit. You know what I'm saying? Is it like